There was a wine glass in the sink. It shouldn't have mattered. But it did. It was the only thing out of place in an otherwise spotless kitchen, the kitchen I cleaned before heading to bed alone last night. The kitchen I knew better than the back of my own hand. The glass sat angled against the basin, still dripping faint trails of water down its side. But it wasn't the water that stopped me. It was the lipstick. A soft, reddish smudge on the rim. Not Kate's usual shade. She always wore something more neutral, and this? This was bold. Flirtatious. Something someone wears when they want to be noticed. When they want to leave a mark. I stared at it for longer than I probably should have, my coffee growing cold in my hand. The glass was a story, and I was missing the pages in between. Kate had gotten in late. Or early, depending on how you count it. The clock had read 3:08 a.m. when the sound of the garage door woke me. I remember looking at my phone, squinting through the haze of sleep, thinking something didn't sit right. She was supposed to land at midnight, give or take, and the airport was 40 minutes away. Even with delays, 3 a.m. felt off. She came in quietly, her heels clicking against the tile before she noticed the lights were off and slipped them off with a sigh. I pretended to sleep, I don't know why. Some part of me wanted to see how she moved when she thought I wasn't watching. She didn't stumble in, exhausted and disheveled like someone who just got off a red eye. Her makeup wasn't smudged. Her clothes weren't wrinkled. Her hair still held its curl like it had been refreshed recently. She leaned down, kissed me softly on the temple, and whispered something about delays in Denver and a screaming baby in the seat behind her. I nodded, keeping my eyes shut. I think she thought I was asleep. Maybe I wanted her to think that. I waited until I heard the soft thunk of her suitcase against the bedroom wall and the shower turning on. This morning, she was back to normal. Or at least what passes for normal lately. Morning, she said, walking into the kitchen like nothing had happened. She wore a cozy sweatshirt I bought her last Christmas and those old gray leggings she always claimed she hated but somehow kept wearing. Her hair was up in a loose bun, her face bare or made to look like it. I nodded, motioning toward the sink. Who had wine? She glanced at the glass without pausing. Oh, I think I had some the night before I left. Abby stopped by. We split a bottle while we caught up. Abby, her college friend who lived 2 states away. Abby was here? I asked, keeping my tone light. For like an hour, she said, pouring herself coffee. She had a layover nearby and an Uber. Was super last minute. I didn't want to wake you. She said it so easily. Like it wasn't a lie. Like it hadn't required a second of thought. She sipped her coffee, scrolling through her phone with her thumb. I studied her face. No twitch. No flicker. Not even that tiny narrowing of the eyes she used to get when she bent the truth. Maybe I was imagining things. But the thing is, Kate doesn't wear red lipstick. Not even for events. And certainly not around the house. And Abby? She hadn't seen Abby in 6 months. I knew because the last time they talked, it ended with Kate slamming her phone down and saying, she's exhausting. I turned the wine glass in the sink, feeling its weight. It was real. It was deliberate. And it was here. I don't remember hearing you too, I said casually. Kate didn't look up. You were out cold. I think it was around 11. We kept it low-key. Just talked. Funny, I said, trying to sound offhand. I don't remember any wine missing. She shrugged. I grabbed a bottle from the garage. One of the older ones. She glanced up finally. Why all the questions? I smiled and shook my head. No reason. Just groggy. That's all. She nodded slowly, studying me for a second too long, then went back to her phone. Her nails tapped against the ceramic mug as she sipped. No more explanation offered. But I couldn't let it go. The house was too quiet after she left for work. Benny, our beagle mix, paced the hallway like he sensed something too. He kept stopping by the laundry room door, the one Kate usually closed if someone was over. He sniffed at the floor, then looked at me, confused. I walked the house like a detective trying to convince himself the crime hadn't happened. Her suitcase was in the bedroom, unzipped with a single change of clothes on top. Not enough for a 3-day trip. Not even close. No boarding pass. No receipt from a rideshare. The toiletries in her travel bag were all unused. Not even the toothpaste had been opened. There was a perfume bottle on the counter. One I hadn't seen before. Something expensive. The kind with a glass stopper and no label, like it had come from one of those boutique shops that don't even advertise. I picked it up and sniffed. Floral, but not sweet. Complex. A scent that lingered. I looked at the wine glass again. That lipstick wasn't hers. And I didn't believe Abby had been there. What bothered me wasn't just the lie, it was the ease with which it came. The casual way she deflected, like it had been rehearsed. Like she'd expected the question and had a script ready to go. We'd been married for 8 years. I knew when something was off. Even if I couldn't prove it yet, my gut was already bracing for what might come next. That morning, I didn't go to work. I stayed home and cleaned the wine glass. Slowly, carefully, like it was a piece of evidence from a crime scene. I rinsed it twice, but that lipstick smudge clung to the glass like it didn't want to be erased. I set it aside, dried it with a towel, and placed it back in the cabinet where it belonged. But even as I shut the cabinet door, I knew that nothing was where it belonged anymore. The wine glass was just the start. Once you see one crack, it's impossible not to notice the rest. That's how it was with Kate. I kept telling myself I was overthinking it, that marriage gets messy sometimes, that routines stretch thin and people get tired. But it wasn't just fatigue or stress. It was something deeper. Something colder. It started with the trips. They used to be once a quarter, tops conferences, supplier meetings, an annual retreat with her marketing team. I never questioned them. I'd help pack her bags, slip a note into her carry-on, walk her to the terminal if I had time. But over the past year, they became more frequent, more last minute. Opportunity just came up, she'd say. Can't afford to miss it. She stopped letting me help her pack. Stopped telling me which city she was going to until the night before. Sometimes not even then. One time I asked where she'd be staying and she blinked like I'd just asked her for a blood sample. I don't know yet, she said. They're still finalizing bookings. I raised an eyebrow. You leave tomorrow. She offered a tight smile. That's how it goes sometimes. You know how corporate is. She always had an answer. Always too fast, too clean. She started keeping her phone face down even when it buzzed. That was new. She'd always been the type to leave it on the counter while she cooked or showered. Suddenly it was always within arm's reach, screen dark, notifications muted. She started password locking her apps. I wasn't snooping, I just noticed. Anyone would. One night, I picked up her phone by reflex when it buzzed on the coffee table. She was in the kitchen. I just wanted to check if it was an alarm or a message. She snapped. Can you not? She said sharply, stepping in fast and taking it from my hand. That's private. I blinked. It buzzed. I thought it was the oven timer. It wasn't, she said flatly. She didn't apologize. Didn't laugh it off or explain. Just took it and walked away. Like I'd crossed a line I didn't know existed. After that, I started noticing everything. Her perfume changed. Her sleep schedule shifted. She used to curl into me at night, one leg thrown over mine, face pressed into my shoulder. Now she curled away. We barely touched. The kisses became mechanical, morning and night, lips to cheek, barely any pressure. The kind you give a coworker you're trying to stay on good terms with. The worst part? She didn't even seem angry. Just distant. Like I was a placeholder in a room she used to love. Then there was the receipt. I wasn't even looking for it. I was sorting through credit card statements for tax season when I saw the charge $912.67 from the Lamp and Vine, a high-end restaurant in Atlanta. I knew the place. We'd gone there for our anniversary once. 2 months waitlist. Dress code, valet, soft piano music. It wasn't the kind of place you go to solo and definitely not the kind of place you expense a salad and a soda with coworkers. I checked the date. It was the same night she said she had a networking mixer at the hotel. Just cheap finger food, she'd said. I'll probably order room service after. I stared at the transaction like it might blink first. When I brought it up casually over breakfast a few days later, she didn't even flinch. Oh yeah, she said, reaching for the orange juice. The team changed plans last minute. One of the suppliers took us out. Big client. They covered most of it, but I picked up the difference. Nice of you, I said, watching her. Seemed fancy. She shrugged. It was okay. Honestly, I was too tired to enjoy it. I nodded and let it drop. But I knew. You don't forget a lie that specific. You file it. You catalog it. And you wait. Then came the lingerie. It sounds petty maybe. But when someone walks out of the bathroom in something you've never seen, something new, something deliberately chosen, you notice. She used to shop with me. We had inside jokes about that stuff. But this time she didn't say a word. She just climbed into bed like nothing was different. Like I wouldn't notice the lace, the deep berg asterisk and Y, the way the straps cut down her back like someone else had picked them. I didn't say anything. I just turned out the light. A week later it happened again. This time a black set. New. Sleek. Minimal. It wasn't for me. I knew it like you know when someone's laughing at a joke they've told before. Rehearsed affection. Scripted spontaneity. She started talking about work more, but never in specifics. Just in tone. Big things coming up. Meetings running late. It's exhausting, she'd say, but never explain what it was. Her calendar stopped syncing with mine. She used to let me know when she'd be late. Now it was silence until 10 p.m. We stopped cooking together. We stopped watching our favorite shows. When I asked her if she wanted to go away for the weekend, just us, like we used to, she hesitated. I might have a workshop, she said. I'll check. She never did. I started sleeping with one eye open. Not literally, but close enough. Every creak in the hallway felt like it meant something. Every time her phone lit up at 1 a.m., I had to fight the urge to look. One night, I reached out in my sleep and found her side of the bed empty. I got up and walked into the living room. She was on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, phone glowing in her hand. She looked up like I'd caught her doing something worse than texting. Couldn't sleep, she said, tucking the phone away fast. Everything okay? She nodded. Just wired. I didn't ask who she was talking to. I didn't want the lie. Another time, I hugged her from behind while she brushed her teeth and my nose caught a scent, cologne. Not hers. Not mine. It clung to the back of her shirt like someone had pulled her into a tight hug earlier that day. I didn't say a word, but my stomach dropped like it had swallowed a stone. There's a moment in every slow unraveling where you stop trying to explain things away and start preparing for the truth. I wasn't ready to confront her, not yet, but I was done pretending nothing had changed. I started making notes. Not because I wanted to build a case, but because I needed to stay grounded. Gaslighting is easy when the person doing it knows you love them too much to ask the hard questions. So I started logging things. Dates. Receipts. Photos. Times she said one thing and evidence said another. It made me feel crazy, but it also made me feel sane. Like I wasn't losing my mind, I was just witnessing something fall apart in slow motion. One night, she was standing by the mirror, putting on earrings I didn't recognize. Her hair was up, her lipstick bold, that same red shade from the wine glass. I watched her from the doorway. Hot date, I said, half joking. She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. Client dinner. Boring stuff. She turned to me, eyes glittering. Wish me luck. I did. But I didn't mean it. She kissed me on the cheek, then grabbed her purse and left. I stood in the doorway a long time after the door closed, the sound of her heels echoing down the steps. Something was happening. I didn't know what yet, but I could feel it inching closer. Like the hush before a storm. There's a point where suspicion isn't enough anymore. You want proof, not because you need it to believe, but because you need it to stop doubting yourself. I think that's where I finally landed. I didn't go looking for a smoking G*N. I wasn't rooting through drawers or tailing her in a trench coat. But sometimes the truth doesn't hide, it just slips out the side door while you're trying too hard to be polite. It started with a notification. Kate was in the shower and her phone lit up on the bathroom counter. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. The screen flashed briefly, an email preview. Hotel booking confirmation. I stared at it, heart thudding. I couldn't see the full details, just the subject line and part of the header. But it was enough. She'd told me she was staying with her team in a budget hotel chain. The name in the email didn't match. This was upscale. Boutique. Romantic. When she came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, I was still pretending to scroll on my phone. She smiled, kissed my shoulder, and said, "Can't wait to sleep in tomorrow." I said nothing. My mind was already racing. That night, after she fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My thoughts moved like a metronome, hotel confirmation, red lipstick, late nights, changed passwords. I didn't want to look, but I also couldn't move forward until I knew. So I made a decision. We shared a cloud account. It was mostly for convenience, photos, joint calendars, shared documents. I hadn't checked it in months. But now it felt like a map waiting to be unfolded. The next day, while she was out for a supposed team-building hike, I logged in. It didn't take long. There was a folder labeled Receipts, something we'd created years ago for keeping track of warranty documents and major purchases. Inside were PDFs and **TS, dozens of them. And they painted a picture far more detailed than I was ready for. Multiple hotel confirmations. Restaurant bills. 2-person spa bookings. Champagne room service. All meticulously dated, all during times she claimed to be at conferences or traveling with her team. I clicked on a file from 3 weeks ago, a room 703, the Crescent Hotel in San Diego. The same weekend she told me she was speaking at a sustainability panel. The receipt listed a room for 2, upgraded suite, and a bottle of Dom Perignon delivered at 9 p.m. Another file from Chicago 1 month earlier, massage for 2, dinner for 2, a late-night checkout. There were at least 6 more. Each trip matched one of her work excuses. I scrolled with a sick feeling in my chest. Every file confirmed what I already knew. Every line item felt like a sentence in a story I didn't get to read until now. Then I found the messages. A hidden folder inside the Photos app. She'd renamed it Invoices. Clever. But she didn't encrypt it, and once I opened it, the illusion shattered. *TS of texts. Not many. Just enough. One thread stood out, her saved messages with someone named L. I didn't recognize the number, but the name caught me. L? Who saves someone as just an initial? I opened the *T. The first message was from Kate. Just landed. Thinking about your hands on me already. Then another from him. Room's ready. Same as last time. Missed you like hell. Another photo. Her in a white hotel robe curled against a man's chest. His face was mostly hidden, turned away, lips near her ear. Her eyes were closed, her smile soft and real. But the mirror behind them, that's what gave it away. Reflected in the mirror, just enough light to catch the side of his face. Leo. Leo Mendez. I blinked at the screen, disoriented. I hadn't thought of him in months. He was younger than us. Early 30s. One of her father's business partners. He worked in strategy or development, something vague but important. I'd met him at a few holiday parties, once at a fundraiser. Charming. Polished. The kind of guy who wore cologne you could smell through a handshake. I never thought anything of him. He was harmless. Friendly. Apparently not so harmless. I stared at the photo again. The reflection didn't lie. That crooked smile. The jawline. It was Leo. Kate had called him L because that's what he was to her. Her escape. Her distraction. Her double life. I sat there for hours reading everything twice. Messages, itineraries, *TS. A different relationship unfolding in stolen time. I couldn't decide what stung worse, the betrayal itself or how easily she'd slipped into it. They had a system. Flights booked under initials. Room service signed with generic titles. She even adjusted our shared calendar to make it seem like she was somewhere else. One entry marked Client Workshop had a corresponding receipt from a winery in Napa, 2 tastings, 1 picnic basket. This wasn't impulsive. It was rehearsed. Repeated. The worst part? I kept trying to understand it. I wasn't perfect. I worked long hours, forgot anniversaries. I zoned out during her marketing stories. Maybe I'd grown too comfortable. But none of that added up to this. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat on the floor of my office with the glow of the laptop burning into my eyes, into my chest. At one point, I pulled out the framed photo on my desk, Kate and me at Lake Tahoe, year 4 of our marriage. Her hair blowing in the wind, I squinting into sunlight. I remembered the moment the shutter clicked. She'd said, "Don't let this one get lost in the cloud." I like this version of us. The version she buried. I don't know how long I sat there, the photo in one hand, my mouse hovering over folder after folder. At some point, I started dragging files into a zip. I wasn't even thinking about what to do with them yet, just knew I had to hold on. Proof wasn't for revenge. It was for clarity. Clarity I couldn't unsee. I found more messages, jokes, nicknames, one of him calling her my wildfire. Photos of her in hotel beds, in dresses I'd never seen before. One message stuck with me the most. "You're the only part of my life that doesn't feel like a rerun." That's how she saw me. A rerun. Comfortable. Predictable. Background noise. I shut the laptop and sat in the dark, my head against the wall, Benny snoring in the hallway. The dog still loved me. At least there was that. I didn't confront her right away. I wasn't ready. But I knew one thing now with certainty. I hadn't been paranoid. I hadn't imagined it. I wasn't the villain in this story. Kate had made a new world for herself. I just hadn't been invited in. There's a particular kind of silence that follows betrayal, the kind that wraps around your throat while you sit across the table from the person you thought you knew. I didn't confront Kate that night. Or the next. I waited. Part of me needed time to process, but another part wanted to see how far she would go. What else she was capable of hiding. Or revealing. I didn't have to wait long. Her father's firm, where we both worked, where I had spent the last 17 years building a reputation, was celebrating its 50th anniversary. Big event. Black tie, formal speeches, catered dinner, the whole 9 yards. It was being hosted at a hotel downtown, the kind with chandeliers that look like frozen rainstorms and waiters who don't speak unless spoken to. I didn't want to go. Every part of me wanted to stay home with Benny, watch a bad movie, and pretend my world hadn't cracked in half. But showing up was expected. And more than that, it was necessary. You see, her father adored me. I'd been with the firm since I was barely out of college. I was dependable, stable, the kind of guy who remembered birthdays and triple-checked contracts. And Kate had once told me, half-drunk at a New Year's party, "My dad respects you more than anyone else I've dated. It makes things easier." Back then, I thought that was a compliment. Now, I realize it was a strategy. The ballroom was already buzzing when I arrived. I shook hands, smiled, made polite jokes. I found a seat at one of the tables near the stage. Kate wasn't there yet. I'd driven separately. People kept asking me where she was. Is Kate coming? Haven't seen your better half yet? I just nodded and said she was probably caught in traffic. Or finalizing something. Or Kate's always fashionably late. It was the only lie that still came naturally. Then she walked in. Every conversation near me stopped like the room had dropped a few degrees. She wore a black velvet dress with a plunging neckline, something far more dramatic than her usual understated style. Her hair was swept up, makeup perfect. But that wasn't what caught me. It was Leo. Right behind her. Wearing a tailored tux, laughing at something she said. His hand rested lightly on her lower back, just enough to be possessive. Confident. Like he belonged there. My stomach clenched, but I kept my expression still. They made their way to the front where her father stood with a small crowd of execs. Kate kissed him on the cheek and exchanged hugs. Leo shook hands like he was part of the family. Like this wasn't new. They didn't look guilty. They looked rehearsed. The program started after dinner. Speeches from longtime employees, toasts, a video montage of the company's milestones. I kept clapping on cue, laughing at the right moments. But my eyes kept drifting to them. The way she leaned toward him. The way he looked at her like he already owned her future. Then her father stepped up to the microphone. Before we wrap things up, he said, I have one final announcement that means a lot to me both professionally and personally. I knew that tone. I'd heard it during promotions, retirements, engagements. Please welcome our new head of business development, he continued, a man who has shown incredible potential and vision, Leo Mendez. Applause broke out. Leo stood, shook a few hands, and made his way to the front. He took the mic with that easy smile and gave a short speech about growth and innovation, the usual fluff. But at the end, he turned slightly, just enough to gesture toward Kate, who was watching him like a proud spouse. And one more thing, he said, glancing at her. On a more personal note, life has a funny way of surprising you. I didn't expect to find more than just a career here, but I did. The room murmured. I felt the shift. People were catching on. I'm honored to say, he continued, that I'm also engaged to this incredible woman right here. He extended a hand. Kate stood, walked over, and kissed him lightly on the cheek. There was a flash from a camera. Applause again, this time more hesitant. Some polite, some shocked. I didn't move. 17 years. That's how long I'd worked for that firm. I'd trained half the people in that room. I'd sat in meetings that dragged past midnight, flown across the country on holidays, missed birthdays to close deals. And now I was being replaced professionally, personally, socially. No warning. No conversation. Not even the decency of a private ending. Kate looked out at the crowd like she'd just been crowned. And for a second, her eyes landed on me. She didn't flinch. Didn't even look sorry. She smiled. I stood up and walked out. No drama. No scene. Just left. The sound of my shoes on the marble floor echoed louder than the applause behind me. I didn't look back. If I had, I might have shattered something. Outside, the air was cold and my hands were shaking, not from the temperature, but from the weight of it all. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the steering wheel. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt hollow. Like someone had scooped out my insides and replaced them with fog. That night, I drove around until almost midnight. No destination. Just streetlights and silence. When I finally made it home, I poured a drink and sat on the back porch, Benny curled at my feet. I thought about the way Kate looked at him. The way she introduced him in front of everyone. Like I had never existed. Like 17 years could be rewritten with a headline and a smile. I should have been angry. And I was. But underneath the anger was something worse, humiliation. This wasn't just infidelity. This was spectacle. She hadn't just betrayed me in private, she'd repackaged it as a milestone. She'd turned our story into her launch pad. A new career. A new man. A new chapter. And I was the footnote. The next morning I called in sick. Then I started packing. Just one suitcase. Essentials. Benny's leash. The documents I'd need. I left her a note on the counter, simple, factual. I won't be here when you get back. You already replaced me, so I'm making it official. I didn't leave my keys. I didn't owe her that anymore. You always imagine the worst part is the moment you find out, the lie, the affair, the betrayal. And yeah, that part *CKs. It guts you. But it's not the end. What comes next, what no one tells you about, is the slow, calculated unraveling that follows. The part where the person who broke your heart decides to break the rest of you, too. I moved into a short-term rental the next day. Nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town with thin walls, fluorescent kitchen lights, and the kind of bland beige carpet that makes your socks feel gritty no matter how clean they are. Benny sniffed every corner like he was looking for the parts of our life that didn't make it in the suitcase. There weren't many. I was still adjusting to the new silence when the first envelope showed up. Certified mail. Legal letterhead. My name in bold. At first, I thought it was divorce paperwork. But no, this wasn't that. Not yet. It was a cease and desist. The wording was slick and surgical. I was being accused of unauthorized access to shared digital assets. In simpler terms, Kate was saying I hacked her cloud storage, that I invaded her privacy, that I violated boundaries. It didn't stop there. The document claimed I'd been emotionally coercive in our marriage, that I'd used my position, whatever that meant, to create a psychologically oppressive dynamic. It referenced unspecified instances of intimidation and warned that further contact would result in legal escalation. I reread the letter 3 times. She was painting me as unstable, as dangerous, as the kind of man who needed to be restrained by law. And the wildest part? She was doing it before I even had the chance to file. I sat on the couch, the letter in my lap, and laughed, a hollow, stunned kind of laugh that made Benny cock his head. I wasn't even angry yet, just dumbfounded. Kate wasn't just moving on. She was rewriting the narrative, preemptively burning the bridge while calling the fire department to report me for arson. I knew I needed help. Enter Lauren. I found her through a friend who'd gone through a brutal custody battle the year before. Lauren wasn't warm or soft-spoken. She didn't say things like, "I'm so sorry you're going through this." She just read the letter, made a dry noise in her throat, and said, "All right, let's dismantle this." That's what I needed. I gave her everything: copies of receipts, *TS of text messages, the hotel confirmations, the photos, even the original folder names and metadata. We sat for 2 hours in her office while she sifted through the evidence, cross-referencing dates, building a timeline, asking precise, rapid-fire questions. When we were done, she leaned back in her chair and said, "This isn't a divorce. This is a smear campaign." And she was right. Kate wasn't trying to separate cleanly. She was trying to bury me, to discredit anything I might say before I said it, to poison the well. I remember Lauren tapping her pen against the file. She's protecting her reputation. Probably her father's business too. If word gets out she had an affair with his junior partner, it's not just gossip, it's liability. We filed a response that same week. It wasn't aggressive, just thorough. It included a counter-declaration stating my access to the shared cloud storage was part of our mutual agreement and had been used by both parties over the past several years. We cited examples: vacation planning documents, joint tax folders, Kate's own uploads from as recently as 6 weeks prior. We attached digital activity logs showing access times and device IDs, proving I hadn't used spyware or unauthorized tools, just logged into the same platform we both had always used. Lauren even included a *T of Kate's welcome email from the service showing the account was created under my name originally and later shared. We attached a statement rejecting the harassment claims and outlining Kate's own documented communications during the same time frame, messages that included pet names, affectionate language, and multiple instances of her initiating contact well after I'd moved out. We didn't *P***nize her infidelity. We didn't need to. We just laid out the truth, cold, steady, undeniable. And then, because life doesn't wait, I went back to work. I'd taken a leave of absence from the firm. Obviously, there was no going back to that office now, not after what happened at the anniversary dinner. I wasn't going to sit across from Leo in some quarterly strategy meeting while pretending he wasn't sleeping with my wife. So I leaned into consulting. Remote contracts, digital audits, client systems and server reconfigurations. Work I could do from a laptop with Benny curled up next to me. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept the lights on. The apartment stayed quiet. I avoided social media. I didn't tell my side of the story. Not yet. Kate, meanwhile, was rewriting hers in real time. She unfollowed me on every platform. Friends started dropping off too, people I'd known for years, suddenly distant. I'd get a text here and there, always hesitant. "Hey man, I heard some stuff. Just wanted to check in." Stuff. That was the word they all used. Stuff. I didn't respond. Not out of pride, but because I was tired of explaining myself. Tired of pretending this was something we could all shrug off and laugh about later. Lauren advised me to stay silent. No posts. No clapbacks. Just documentation. So that's what I did. Every time someone mentioned Kate's new relationship in passing, I made a note. When a coworker said, "Didn't you and Leo used to grab lunch all the time?" I logged it. When a mutual friend texted me a **T of a group chat where Kate said I was spiraling and obsessing, I saved it. I wasn't spiraling. I was building a record. A quiet defense. Not for revenge. For clarity. For the day she tried to paint me as bitter or unstable, I wanted a timeline that spoke louder than words. And through all of it, I said nothing. No late-night messages. No, how could you, emails. No calls. I let her make her moves. Then I made mine. Lauren drafted the initial divorce proposal the following month. It was professional, fair, and matter-of-fact. We weren't fighting over kids, so the negotiations were mostly financial. Property. Vehicle. A few joint investments. We proposed a clean 50-50 split on shared assets, minus the house. Kate had inherited it through a family trust, so we didn't contest it. But we did attach an affidavit summarizing the digital evidence. Not to shame her. Just to establish the factual grounds for the divorce. Adultery isn't criminal, but it matters when someone is trying to spin the narrative. We filed. Kate didn't respond right away. Instead, I got a text. The first in weeks. I didn't expect you to go this route. I thought we could be adults about this. I stared at the message for a long time. No apology. No accountability. Just surprised that I wasn't rolling over. I didn't reply. Let her be surprised. That week, I got served with a revised version of her original cease and desist, this one with softer language, clearly rewritten by a lawyer trying to save face. It still implied wrongdoing, but with enough ambiguity to walk it back later if needed. Lauren smiled when she read it. She's backpedaling. Good. The legal side slowed down after that. Negotiations began. Formal mediation dates were set. But emotionally? That was the hardest part. Every day was a battle with myself. Not to reach out. Not to scroll. Not to wonder if she was posting pictures of them together, celebrating some fake version of what they built on top of the wreckage. I reminded myself daily I wasn't the one who cheated. I wasn't the one who lied. I wasn't the one trying to erase history with a press release and a new wardrobe. I was the one trying to survive the blast radius without losing my voice. And slowly, I did. Not through rage. Not through revenge. Through structure. Through record-keeping. Through a quiet, disciplined belief that the truth, if documented, would stand on its own. The apartment never felt like home, but it became something better, a clean slate. I kept it minimal. A desk. A bed. A single framed photo of Benny from the shelter, tongue lolling, ears flopped like he knew something I didn't. Every morning started with routine, coffee at 7, a walk with Benny at 8, consulting gigs until 4. I wrote everything down. Every date, call, message. Not for court. For me. To stay grounded. Kate twisted stories, turned mutual friends against me. Claimed I was obsessed, emotionally erratic. I said nothing. I let the record speak. The silence was strategic. For the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was observing. Documenting. Surviving. Therapy helped. I didn't think it would. I walked in skeptical, walked out lighter. I unpacked years of quiet self-abandonment, realized how much I'd bent to keep our life from breaking. Kate hadn't just cheated. She'd rewritten our story with her as the misunderstood heroine. But I stopped needing to prove her wrong. I didn't need to win. I just needed clarity. Truth. I started sleeping through the night again. Benny curled against my legs like a weighted blanket with fur. Each day was still hard, but less sharp. The bleeding had slowed. Healing, in its own quiet way, had **N. The mediation room felt like a conference center for robots, gray carpet, fake plants, air too cold. Kate walked in full armor. Heels, blazer, practiced indifference. I kept my eyes on the paperwork. Lauren presented everything, the timelines, receipts, messages. Kate's expression didn't crack until the texts with Leo showed. Just for a second, her mouth tightened. She hadn't expected this level of preparation. The settlement was quick. She kept the house and her car. I kept my savings, Benny, and more importantly, my freedom. She didn't speak as we left. I didn't need her to. That chapter was closed.